Hey, hello, happy World Breathing Day, everybody. I'm hurtling in from Worcestershire, if anybody knows where that is. That's in the Midlands area of the United Kingdom. And I live on a 4-acre small holding. And just in the run up to this call, I had my monthly log delivery come in. So if I look a little bit like I'm sweating, that's because I'm sweating. So I just come and throw all the logs in, and then the log man can leave, and then here we are. So the theme that Robin invited me to talk about was the importance of spiritual community. And this is on a surface level, a kind of obvious observation to make, that there's a value in coming together, joining our energies together and our intentions together to move towards what we want, not only in our own bodies and in our own lives, but in our collective experience in our own world. And the Breathing Circle Initiative, which is actually 2008, which is a good while ago now, the Breathing Circle came into being as I don't know, some great breakthroughs come out of miserable moments in your life, and I was having a particularly miserable experience in my life, having gone through the experience of postnatal depression, having had my baby, and I was struggling to create connections with people in a town that I'd only just moved to. And so there was a real sense of isolation for me around that, not knowing quite how to reach out and not having the same access to community that I'd had in the previous places I'd lived in. So the Breathing Circle was a modest venture that involved basically venturing 3 hours a month to make my home available to anyone who wanted to learn about conscious breathing and who wanted to practice conscious breathing, just as a method for starting to build community. That was really my personal aspiration. And what I learned through reaching out from that place of vulnerability was that when we keep things really simple, they are sustainable. And I think this is probably the learning that I've had over the years, is not to overcomplicate the offering. And so the Breathing Circle was partly inspired by a small holiday that I took to Morocco, and my accommodation was located next to a mosque. And I noticed, it's impossible not to notice, that the prayer service for the mosque goes on with some regularity. There's kind of people are called into prayer 5 times a day. And I was in, as I say, in a somewhat depressed state. I would sit in my window just watching people coming and going from the mosque. I was too shy to go out onto the street and check out the market or anything else. But I just watched people coming and going from prayer, and coming and going and coming and going day after day. And after a while, you start seeing some of the same faces, and you start realizing, there's something about this regularity of practice, regularity of coming together with the simplicity of simply in the state of the Islamic tradition, getting down on your prayer mat and meeting with God, but also doing that together. And it really moved me. And I thought, I wasn't raised religiously. I didn't have a religious upbringing. I didn't have a practice of going to church or anything like that. But I could really start to see how something as simple as gathering in order to acknowledge our spiritual identity, our spiritual experience, whatever that means for us individually, is I think, essential part of feeling whole. I would venture that it's a essential part of feeling whole, even though we don't want to get too prescriptive over how we define our spiritual experience. And the breath, of course, gives us a pathway whereby we can breathe together, and each person can have their own individual definition on what they basically feel that spiritual experience is. So how a breathing circle works is quite simple. People who are usually at an introductory level, not with necessarily previous experience of breath work, gather in the healing space, and we have a brief share, sometimes not so brief, it depends on what's going on in the group, but we have an opportunity for each person to express from as authentic a emotional space as possible. And this is what I call making the soup. And then you've got something of a sort of collective contribution. Each person can express something that's going on in their life. And of course, one of the fundamentals in that space is that it wants to be confidential and non-judgmental. These are the premises of our practice. And I'm sure probably almost everyone who's gathered here today is practicing in a way which is confidential and non-judgmental. And that seems to be one of the other features that I've noticed that makes spiritual community feel robust. So there's all kinds of other communities. Am I talking too fast, by the way? Wave your hands in the air. I'm just conscious of the fact that I'm speaking English and not necessarily everybody else is. If you want me to slow down, please.
That is well understood, Nathalia.
Is it? Is coming over okay? I'm so high off the log throwing.
Tiny.
I'm like, I've still got log throwing going on in my body. So I'm like hitting the ground running here. So anyway, if you need it slower, or any of you guys with your videos off, you can flick your videos on and wave your fingers at me. And I'm very happy to slow down. I have a speed setting. Let me take a breath. 20 minutes doesn't feel like very long. I didn't realize that this World Breathing Day was going to give us such a micro dose of each other, but isn't that amazing? A micro dose of lots of magical breath workers. So yes, I just wanted to offer a few of the features that I have discovered that seem to be valid and important components when building spiritual community. So one of them was my learning from the mosque. It's regular. It's like a heartbeat. The breathing circle happens in my house whether people come or whether people don't come. I'm less invested in having lots of people, and I'm more invested in having a space where the heart beats. And if that's my heart, then I feel privileged to have the space to lie down and breathe myself. And those have been some of the most moving breathing circles I've had, just meeting myself in spiritual space. I always build a shrine. I always build a different narrative through the shrine, which reflects usually, because I live in the countryside, usually it's a process of collecting plants and flowers and going into the natural environment and gathering together some of the things which anchor me into the wheel of the year. The wheel of the year is the practice which is observed by pagan traditions, by people who are essentially using the weather and the seasonal cycles as a method for connecting with their energetic experience. And so I often bring the passing of the seasons conversation into the breathing circle. Oh, I just saw Michael and Claire pop up on my screen. Hello. I'm a little bit on the ADHD side, so the appearance of so many beautiful faces in one place at one time has me pinging like a firework in a box. I'm like, this is so exciting. So the theme for the breathing circle tends to come somewhat intuitively. It's definitely built out of something that feels emotionally authentic for myself personally, because I think that you start with yourself in the healing work, and then you allow that to radiate out, and maybe it has a positive effect for other people as well. But I'm fairly keen on identifying something that feels meaningful that's going on in my own life. And then in the early part of the breathing circle, I present the theme and I invite people to go into a light meditation with the breath and ponder, investigate, or as I put it, rootle about in the inner world, get into the interior landscape of the body and see what sensations or emotions or stories start to kind of surface in response to the theme. And so once we come out of the meditation, we have an opportunity to share. And this is the cooking of the soup. This is kind of putting the ingredients into the soup. Each person's energy is an essential contribution to the flavor of the soup. And can you tell I'm a bit witchy? I'm a little bit on the witchy side, you see. And I talk about it in terms of having an etheric cauldron, you know, and the better the ingredients we put in the soup, the better the soup. So we try to steer the sharing away from the superficial, you know, sort of invite people to drop deeply. And as a part of that, I show up in the space myself with my own emotional experiences. And this is in part because it's valuable for everyone in the community to get a sense that it's okay to go deep. You can go deep and stay safe, and you can go deep and you can be held. And so generally speaking, I'm talking about working with quite small numbers on a breathing circle. 6 is probably my favorite, but I don't say that with a group of 8. But I like the small numbers because you can kind of scooch in together. I think proximity is helpful. I think physical contact is helpful. And I think that the experience of being in the company of other people who you might not know socially, but you can drop into deeply emotionally, I think that's a basic human need. I really do. And I think that this once a month experience, at the moment at my breathing circle, I've got 2 or 3 people who are really running quite difficult challenges in their own lives, and they're perhaps not in a position to be able to access session work. The cost of that might be prohibitive. Training work could be out of the question as a result of childcare challenges, all this kind of thing. But they pop into the breathing circle, and once a month they get their microdose. And actually, I found it to be, in many cases, enough. And it was enough for me when I was parenting my daughter. She was very young. I wasn't really in a position to want to go in for a more deeper voyage into my psyche. I didn't have the time or the resources for that. But for 3 hours a month, I was really present to this small group in my house. An element of it is to do with providing a bit of guidance and structure around breathing awareness, which is very much, as I said earlier, kept very simple. I don't tend to get overcomplicated with the process. It is a intimate opportunity for people to meet their own bodies with their own breath in the company of other people who have the same aspiration. So that's a little bit of an outline on the breathing circle as a vision. I'm delighted to have been supported by a number of other people around the world who have decided to breathe at the same time on the same day, which is part of the heartbeat. Some of those circles are going on one day either side. We're not too scientific about it, but broadly speaking, around the last Tuesday of the month, that signifies the breathing circle wave. And because those circles are going on in different countries, the wave moves through the time zones around the world. So there's something slightly cosmic about it. There's something very regular about it. And it's still going after 2008. And there's lots and lots of breathwork professionals running loads of super interesting and valuable content, training and workshops and session work. And I offer all of that in my profession as well. But for me, the breathing circle is something slightly different. It is broadly driven by the idea that community sustains us. And in the context of the work that we're doing, that's community held together by a passion for breath. So I'm going to take a breath into that. Keep looking at my clock and thinking Robin's going to say, yes, thank you very much, goodbye. So the tail end of the previous contributor from Christopher Gladwell, he didn't have the opportunity to finish that with the breathing. So I thought maybe we could move into a bit of breathing practice. Hello, little fella. I'm just looking at the little newest addition to our, I don't know if you've got our young child on the screen on your television, but he looks most lovely. I'm delighted to see children in the mix. Give me a wave. There we go. I want to ask you what your name is and where you come from, but then I know that will send me into a million different spaces. Can he?
What is your name again? What is your name?
Sophia.
Sophia, how lovely to meet you. Where do you live, Sophia?
Waar woon je?
Belgium.
Melcham. Do you want to do some breathing with us?
Oh,
More babies.
ademen?
Hello, sweetie. Hello, Poppet. So I'm just going to offer a very simple 5-element breathing practice, 5 breaths through 5 elements. Has anyone practiced 5-element breathing before? Wave your hands in the air if you know what I'm talking about. This comes from the Tibetan traditions. Okay, great. So we're all in it more or less as newbies. It's a very complete system, travels up the body. It's also involving some toning practice. So we can use sound to activate the vagus nerve and get us into a deeply relaxed state. There's probably 2 positions for the 5 elements that would be really suitable. One is where your spine is straight sitting up, and the other one would be lying down with support behind your head. So if you're in a position to lie down, you can get your body laid down straight. And this is the most simple way we can do it within the time we have available is 5 breaths in each element. And just before we go in, we've got our eyes open and we can see what we're talking about. First breath, the first 5 breaths are in and out through the mouth. So mouth breathing in and out through the mouth corresponds with the belly and the abdomen, the lower energy centers. So you're starting at the base, starting right down in your roots, and take 5 mouth breaths. And if you keep your eyes open, you can see me do those 5 breaths. And then we have a period of pause just to observe the body and see what's going on. And then we move to the fire breath. And the fire breath is in through the mouth, out through the nose, and an abdominal tone. So we're sending sound energy down into the belly to move all the way through the lower energy center and open up some relaxation in the belly. So that's in through the mouth, out through the nose. And then we go into the pause. And then after the pause, we go further up the body, the heart, into the higher energy centers, in through the nose, out through the nose. And I'm going to talk all of this instruction through, so don't worry. And then we go 5 breaths in through the nose, out through the nose, and tone from the heart, higher energy centers. So using the sound as well as the breath to cleanse and clear the system. And then we go to the pause after those 5 breaths. And then we're going nose to mouth. This is the water breath. In through the nose. And let it go like a waterfall out of the mouth. That's 5 water breaths. And then the 5th element is the etheric. And that corresponds with what Leonard Orr called noiseless energy breathing. And that's just a phase of allowing the whole system to absorb and release energetic charge. It's not really a big air-filled breath. It's a very subtle settling into the body. So that's a speed description, so you don't have to think too hard while we're in it. Are you up for giving it a go? Give me a quick wave. Yes. Okay, fantastic. A few people up for it. I'm sort of trying to cram something into quite a small space, but we all know what we're on about. We give it a go, listen to your own body, and obviously to whatever extent possible, enjoy the ride. So finding a comfortable position for your body. And if you are able to put your palms upturned, then you can count your 5 breaths on your fingers. So relaxing the hands in a position with the palms upturned, eyes open or eyes closed, whatever you feel comfortable with. Bringing the chin slightly down towards the chest, opens up the back of the neck, elongates the back of the neck and the head. And let's start with 5 breaths in and out through your mouth. And the last one, a really big one. And then just taking a moment to settle in the still point. Noticing what's going on inside your body. And when you feel ready, stepping towards the fire breath, which is in through the mouth, and release with an abdominal tone. 5 fire breaths. Mm. Mm. And a nice long one. Mm. And then arriving back in the still space, making no demands of your body, and using the breath to rise up towards the chest and the upper body. We're breathing in through the nose. If it's comfortable to put the tongue on the roof of your mouth, you can put the tongue on the roof of the mouth, and we're releasing the out breath with a tone that corresponds with the chest cavity. So it's a slightly higher tone. 5 air breaths, in through the nose, out through closed lips. Mm. 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 And the last one's a long one. Mm. And allowing that to fade away, coming back to quiet. Noticing the conditions of your body. And the next breath we're moving towards is in through the nose, out through pursed lips, out through the mouth. And it's the water breath, and it's an exuberant release on the exhale. 5 water breaths. Settling back into the still point. And from that place, allowing yourself to drift into the noiseless energy breathing, the etheric breath, as if your whole body was receiving and releasing energy through the auric field. And gently bringing ourselves back with a few more air-filled breaths. Starting to bring some movement into your body. Little movement of your hands. You can bring your palms together in front of your face or in front of your heart. Drop 3 fingers down. Give yourself a church steeple going up. And on the in-breath, rise up above your head. Nice and high, and get your toes as far away from your fingers as you can. Turn yourself into a long, thin pine needle. Stretch, 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 and then breathing out, release your hands. Shake it all out. That's a speed, the speediest immersion into 5 elements I think I've ever had to do. I hope some of it worked for you. If anybody wants to put their microphones on and feedback, I got a thumbs up. That's quite a lot to take in with those 5 breaths and practice that. Did it arrive with you okay? Did it sort of come okay, very good.